Become a leader in the emerging fintech space through NYU Stern's Master of Science in Fintech program. This one-year part-time program is designed for full-time working professionals who want to strengthen their fintech skills. To learn more, submit your resume for a candidacy review at stern.nyu.edu/msft-finovate.
Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We are continuing our conversations with the FinovateFall 2024 Best of Show winners. And joining me today, we have Rithwik Pattikonda, founder and CEO of CardLift. Rithwik, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Greg.
So again, as you've heard me say over the last couple of weeks, you can find the CardLift demo at finovate.com/videos. But Rithwik, for people who haven't had a chance to see that demo or haven't heard about you before, can you start with just a quick introduction on yourself and kind of how you came to found CardLift?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about my background. I've been in browser extensions for a couple years now. Started off with a company called OctoShop, where we built a browser extension that helped people shop better online. We sold that to Ibotta, and then I worked at Google for a year, left to start another travel browser extension. Now it's the world's largest in the travel space. And so building all these extensions gave us a lot of insight into how powerful extensions are in driving user behavior. And so came to CardLift, where our goal here is to leverage some of this power with browser extensions to help card issuers maximize their share of wallet for their existing users.
Yeah, it's a really cool demo, and we'll get into the company a little bit more in a minute. But first, I have to start by talking about the fact that CardLift was our youngest Best of Show winner this year. Founded in February of 2024, on stage winning an award in September of 2024. That must have been just a crazy 6 months. Can you talk a little bit and give our listeners some idea about what that looked like from your standpoint?
Yeah, it's been incredible. So I think given that we made so much progress in just 6 months shows that this is something that issuers are very keen about solving. And so like we went through Y Combinator earlier this year. We launched with HEB recently and are rolling out with some other store brand cards over the next few weeks that we haven't announced yet. Another large B2B card issuer that does tens of billions in yearly transaction volume. And we were also funded by the venture arm of one of the top 5 card issuers. So making a lot of headway and hopefully continuing to scale like as we go over the next year.
Yeah, certainly you've been able to accomplish quite a bit in a really short amount of time, which is one of my favorite things about the fintech industry, by the way, is how this type of story is possible. And again, the technology, of course, has to be there. So let's talk about CardLift more specifically. At a high level, how does it work?
Yeah, so the idea is that CardLift is the solution to help you sort of maximize your user's share of wallet. The way it works is we work with card issuers and build you a white labeled browser extension. So let's say you're Acme Bank, we would make you the Acme browser extension. In your onboarding flow or whatever other hooks you have in your app or website, you would ask your users to add your browser extension to their browser. And the cool thing we're able to do is using the user's browser history, we can figure out where they shop. So whether that's Amazon or Airbnb or their subscriptions like their Spotify, Hulu, their phone bills, all of these different places where a user could have a card on file. And then with one click from the user, we go to all of those sites and change the card on file to our partner's card. So now once a user installs the Acme Bank extension and presses a button, all of their subscriptions and recurring spend and Amazon payments and all this stuff starts going through the Acme card. So within 5 minutes, you can get a lot of capture there. And then the second feature we have is one-tap checkout. So now that the user has installed the Acme extension, on every future e-commerce site they make a purchase at, we pop up with a one-tap checkout with Acme button. user clicks the button and we autofill the card details. And this one tap checkout button has like some copy. So you should check out with the Acme card because we give you 2x back on this site, or we give you free car rental insurance on this purchase. So a lot of hooks and things to incentivize the users to not only move all of their existing spend over to the Acme card, but also continue to use their Acme card on future purchases.
Yeah, and I think you begin to see the power of that kind of tool really quickly, which I'm sure is what was able to capture the imagination of our audience. One of the kind of difficult things to understand about the demo, in some sense, it's really simple to watch, right? It was very easy to look at. You really just click a button. I'm sure there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Can you talk about some of what's going on in the background that really enables you to make the process so seamless for those front end users?
Yeah, I think it's a very challenging problem to solve. Being able to reliably change this cardholder information on all of these sites and make the experience seamless. I think the first very important thing to note about how like clean our solution is for the end user is that the user doesn't need to like re-authenticate to all of these sites. So since we're in the browser as a browser extension, when the user presses the button, they're presumably already logged in or have their password saved for, Spotify, Amazon, and all these services. So it's really as simple as one click from the user versus like asking them to log into all of these different sites. But the challenging part comes in where um, we need to maintain like all of the card on file systems for all these different like e-commerce sites. So when the user clicks the button, we need to make sure that like everything works and their card on file gets changed reliably.
Are there any hurdles that you had to overcome in order to embed a card? What were some of the challenges that you had as you're putting it all together?
Yeah, I think it's just building this infrastructure to be able to address changes to sites very quickly. So making it reliable. In terms of security and compliance, the cool thing is that we don't actually store any cardholder information. So since it all happens in the user's browser, we get around a lot of the headache of like security risks with storing and transferring cardholder information across servers. And we've also like done a lot of these like security audits to make sure like everything is good and bank grade in terms of like how we're storing and transferring information. So getting all that together was probably the biggest hurdle, but I think now we're finally there.
One question I have, and this is potentially one that's going to anger some people, but are there specific browsers that are easier for you to work with? Do you have a favorite browser, or are they all basically the same in terms of how CardLift can engage with them?
Yeah, so they're all pretty similar. The main browsers that really you should be looking to target are Chrome and mobile Safari. So that's where like our main product offering lies. But there's a bunch of other browsers like Edge and Opera, and they all are basically built off of Chromium. So the extension should work on them as well. But I would say Chrome and mobile Safari are really the biggest market share. That's where you'll get most of the value.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. So, looking at this from a bank standpoint, obviously there's a lot that they can potentially do with this. And the technology, again, is really amazing. One of the things that will likely happen here is that this becomes, a hyper competitive landscape really quickly. I think we're at an age now where people are kind of consolidating the number of credit cards that they own. They're consolidating the payment options that they use on a daily basis. And now we're kind of going from, it's not even about having the two or three that are in the wallet. It's about having this one. You really only get one in this kind of solution. So, what are you seeing that card issuers are doing to kind of maximize the chances that their card is the one that a customer would want to integrate into this type of solution?
Yeah, I think the key to achieving top of wallet or now it's top of browser is gamification. So making sure every step of the way is gamified to where like the user has this incentive to reach these goals. So when you're doing like card switching, for example, you can show them the estimated rewards and gamify that experience. And When you have like something like one tap checkout, like the one tap checkout button, you can tell them how many points they have right now and how many they need to earn to get to their next vacation. So when you gamify this or you gamify the whole experience and show them like a goal that they need to reach, like in the process of shopping, so like at the point of checkout or when you're doing the spend migration, I think that always helps. That's probably like the biggest driver in like getting a customer to do something. But other than that, I think like making your card more rewarding with there's a bunch of CLO companies that give you like card linked offers. In the one tap checkout integration that we have, we also have affiliate offers. So we work with affiliate networks and retailers to enhance the value of your cashback. So if you have 1% on some site, we'll be able to augment that with another 4% funded by the merchant. So making your card program more rewarding in terms of like what the user gets, and then also more importantly, gamifying the process of the user spending on your card are the biggest pieces, I think, to top of wallet.
Yeah, and I think here's where it's important to recognize, the phrase gamification, I think, gets overused in a lot of cases, and some people are sort of dismissive of it, thinking, well, it's not all about, getting a high score or doing some stupid little cell phone game. And in many cases, what gamification means is just sort of asking this question, what if? What would it look like if? And I think that's a really crucial component here, because you're able to really quickly show customers, hey, if you engage with this card with these rewards, this is what that ripple effect would be based on your current spending habits. And this is data which already exists, right? This is something which is easy to go back and look at transaction histories. It's easy to apply a certain set of rules to those same types of transactions. But I think here's where gamification really has a lot of potential value, because you give consumers the opportunity to play and to say, here's, how do I set this up in the way that's most beneficial to me? So I think that's a really good answer there. And I also think this puts pressure on card issuers. And I think it's the right kind of pressure to say, hey, make sure that you're subjecting your own cards to these types of tests. Make sure that your users who go through these types of tests are going to come away with a really positive viewpoint of what your card actually does. So that's a really fun piece to highlight there. And I think, as the landscape gets more competitive, it's only going to become more and more important that card issuers really look hard at those capabilities. Become a leader in the emerging fintech space through NYU Stern's Master of Science in Fintech program. This is a one-year part-time program divided into 1 online and 6 on-site modules that take place in New York and in rotating global locations. The MSFT program is designed for experienced working professionals who want to strengthen their fintech skills or transition to fintech leadership positions. The final application deadline for the MSFT class of 2026, beginning May 2025, is March 1st. GMAT and GRE scores are generally not required. To learn more about the program, submit your resume for candidacy review at stern.nyu.edu/msft-finovate. So the next question I have for you, as you look at this, in my kind of thought was, what we're looking at on the screen, it's not so far away from what a buy now, pay later type of transaction actually looks like. How do you feel like you're engaging or competing with the BNPL providers who are also offering, in many cases, very strong internet checkout experiences?
Yeah, I think the benefit of what we do for like a financial institution or bank is that it gives them more control of being able to implement some of these things. So you can imagine in our one tap checkout feature, when you're on any checkout page, like from the bank itself, like we can take that card transaction, split it up into multiple payments. And now the bank or the financial institution can offer buy now, pay later on all of these sites and build this stronger relationship with their user instead of having to work with like some other buy now pay later provider. So being in the browser, I think, gives you like the power to do some of these things where like a bank program or a bank can implement a program like buy now pay later and make sure it's actually used, because you can pop up at the checkout page of any site and recommend that your user does this.
Yeah, and there's again another crucial way to for banks and card issuers to maintain some control here. And I think the validity of buy now pay later as a whole is something which is hotly debated, and how much of a service it provides. I think people have very strong opinions on that. But from a bank standpoint, it's really pretty straightforward. You'd prefer they didn't. You'd prefer that they made those payments through your own channels than to go and get another company out of there. Um, so last question for you. We started this by talking about how, crazy the last 6 months have been. I think the question that we'll end on is, where do you take CardLift from here? What's next on the agenda?
Yeah, I think for us, it's just adding more and more features to help banks offer more of these helpful services to their consumers, and also generate more revenue per user. So, like the buy now, pay later thing we talked about, expanding our affiliate relationships. But I think we've built a product that works, and it's compelling for card issuers to start using us, since our product is very tied to revenue. Like our whole company name is CardLift. We're trying to increase like cardholder usage, and that's very directly tied to company bottom line revenue. And so I think we're at the point where we're starting to scale up and work with more and more card issuers. So over the next few months, it's probably going to be like scaling up and launching with more card issuers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been really clear to see that you've been able to really engage with a lot of different sides of the fintech ecosystem. Obviously, you're resonating well with the Finovate audience. We were able to walk away with the trophy. So we've seen quite a few things over the past 6 months that would give us some very high expectations. And now you have the ability to go and follow through on those. So congratulations again on your Best of Show win at FinovateFall. And thanks again for taking the time to connect with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@Finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.